What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about the AC system in the Z. So I'm going to go ahead and split this into two parts. One is going to be an R134a conversion and how you go about doing that. And the other part is wiring up a set of E fans. So you can see I have two 12-inch fans right here on my radiator. This is an eBay radiator and it came with these fans. I've looked and I think the vendor who sold this is no longer doing it, but this was sold by a vendor called Speed Daddy. So if you guys want to try to find that, go ahead. But I want to go ahead and walk through converting to R134a first. So initially you'll have R12 in the system, and there are substitutes you can buy on like eBay. They're called like A12 or something like that. You might want to try those because I've heard that R12 cools better than 134a does. But I wanted to go ahead and do R134a because that's what you can get at all the stores. It's a little bit more available and it's just kind of easier to do. So what you really want to do in order to prep your system is you want to take off, so this is an AC line. This is an AC line. It runs down to the condenser in the front. It's got some fittings on there, and then it runs to a dryer over there, I'll show you, and then it runs into the car. What you're going to want to do is unbolt these fittings, and there's a seal in there. It's a black seal. That's for R12. You want to replace that with a green seal for R134a. So on both of these, on the condenser, there's two, I believe, one on each side. I don't know if there's seals in the dryer, but you are supposed to replace the dryer as well. So what you're actually going to want to do is just unbolt that and replace the whole unit, because I guess the oils or something are incompatible between the two. But you don't necessarily have to do that, and I'll tell you why in just a bit here. I bought a new dryer so that I could do it, but it didn't come, I'll show you, it didn't come with these electrical connections right here. I'm not sure what they are, if they're like a pressure sensor or something, but it didn't come with it. It was just blocked off. There was like a bolt there, and it didn't look like it came out, so I didn't want to mess with it. So this is the original R12 dryer that I have. So I haven't had any problems with it. Maybe it's more efficient if you do the dryers, but I'm not 100% sure, so I just left it and it's working fine for me. So once you go ahead and get all these fittings fixed, again, I didn't do the condenser and I haven't had a problem yet because I got an intercooler and everything in the way, and I'd have to take a bunch of stuff off in order to get to it, so I just haven't done it. But if I have a leak in the future, I'll probably go through the system and do that. But what you want to do now is go to your local auto parts store, something like AutoZone or Pep Boys will have. You want a vacuum pump, and you also want a manifold gauge kit. The manifold gauge kit is really only useful because it has an R134a fitting to a vacuum pump line. You might be able to get a vacuum pump with a line if depending on where you're at, but for me I had to get both kits in order to make it work. Now what you can do is you can hook up the whole manifold gauge kit and we'll look at all that, but it kind of introduces some errors into the system if you have like leaky lines or leaking fittings. So I just went straight from this is the low pressure side, over to a vacuum pump I had on the ground, and I just sucked it all out, left it on for 15-ish minutes, and that should vacuum the entire system out. And then what you want to do is you want to go ahead and turn it off. And the vacuum pump that I was using also leaked, so you have to like undo the fitting here, take it off. It's like a press fit, and then pop it off. But basically, you want to make sure the system is holding vacuum. So that is where the manifold gauge kit comes in handy if you want to go ahead and hook up a pressure gauge. You can do that. But once you know that your system is completely good, it's all sealed up, what you're going to want to do is get a kit like this. This is the Easy Chill Retrofit Kit. I believe I got this on Walmart. I've found them on eBay as well. And it comes with 3 cans of refrigerant, which is more than enough for this system, as well as the little handle and gauge thing that you need. You want to go ahead and make a note on the side of the box. It does tell you what pressure you should be reading for your ambient temperature. So for 80 degrees Fahrenheit ambient temperature, you should be reading 40 to 50 psi. And it's got a little gauge on here as well that tells you on the actual bottle handle. But once you have this kit, you can go ahead. It comes with fittings. You have to adapt the R12 line to the R134a fitting. They're different. It does come with a high pressure and a low pressure line fitting. I believe I had to take the Schrader valve out of the R12 line and then put the R134a with a new Schrader valve on it in order to get it to properly work. But once you have that on, you can go ahead, you turn your car on, and one important thing you need to note is that you have to have your AC, or you have to have fans running. Whether you have the original clutch fan, that's fine, or if you have AC fans, you want to jump it or something in order to make those fans pull air through the condenser, or else you'll gain too much pressure in the system and you actually blow up a line, and it's not good, obviously. So what you want to do, make sure everything is running, turn the car on, turn AC on. Typically what will happen is if you have vacuumed it all out correctly and you turn the AC on, this compressor clutch won't engage, and that's okay, because once you start filling it with Freon, you're going to go ahead and just get the little adapter, put it in, start filling it up through this. The compressor clutch will kick on, and if you see it kick on, you know it's working right. You know everything is doing good, because once it kicks on, then it starts to pressurize the system. You're probably going to go through about 1.5 cans, if I remember correctly, of the stuff, of the Freon. And you're supposed to tip it upside down every once in a while, just to kind of get the, I think there's lubricant in it, the oil. And sorry, I was actually going to mention that the reason why you don't necessarily have to get a new dryer is because this is a retrofit kit. So this should come with a compatible oil and air conditioning for the system, so you won't need to have to change out that dryer. But once you go ahead and fill it up, you're going to go ahead and get to the right pressure in the system. It's listed on the box for your ambient temperature, and then that should be pretty good. You should be able to be completely fine with your system after that. That's pretty much everything in order to transfer over to R134a. Again, I haven't had any problems with not moving or not changing out the dryer. But if I do have problems in the future, I'll try to drop a comment in the description down below so you guys know whether or not to do that. But I'm going to go ahead now and talk about the E-fans. Alright, so now you can see I have these two 12-inch E-fans. I did get these on eBay with the radiator. And basically, you want to be careful when you're doing these E-fans. You have to have them hooked up perfectly, or else it'll kind of be a problem. So what we're going to go ahead and do, I have a line coming in. There's a grommet under the battery here that goes inside. I have hooked up a line from the steering column of the ignition key to when you turn into the on position, there's a switched 12-volt power there. That is a key term. You need switched 12-volt power. So if the key is out of the ignition and the car is off, it does not get 12 volts. So once it's in the on position, then you get 12 volts. I have that line running through. It comes out under here, and it comes up to this relay. Well, there's a relay right there if you can see it. All right, there we go. Now this relay controls all of the power for everything here in the engine bay that I've added in. So what you want is a switched power source. So now so the relay, it basically has 4 pins. One is a signal and a ground for the signal, and that opens the relay. That's what you want. And then you have basically a pass-through for your power. So I have a line coming off my battery over here. It comes through the relay when the relay is on, when it's open. It allows power to keep going through. I have a fuse holder right here. This is a 30 amp fuse holder. This is a 30 amp relay. Really, you'd want like a 25 amp or something to make this blow before the relay does. But I didn't have a 25 amp fuse, so I'm making it dangerous right now running with that. And then it comes down over here, and I have a couple things. So I'm going to go ahead and break this into basically three simple parts. So this is a thermostat for the radiator. And I'm going to call this a signal source, and then this is for the AC. This is also a signal source, and then this is the power for the fans. So let's go ahead and talk about the thermostat first. It has a probe. You can see the silver line that runs up and around, and it goes down under there. See if you can see it. This temperature probe. You can put it through the fins of the radiator. You can try to put it like in the actual hose itself. I've tried putting it in the hose, and it always leaked for me. And if you put it in the fins, well, first of all, it messes up your fins, but it also has the chance of like rubbing away and causing a leak in the future. So I have it right here. Hasn't given me much of a problem. I can adjust the temperature with this knob, and basically if I lower it low enough, it'll even just turn on at room temperature. I think it's probably like 80 degrees in here, and it'll turn on. But so there's the temperature probe, and it comes up into here, and it's very simple. It has a power source coming in right here, and then a signal coming out. So when it reaches the temperature, it passes the power through, and it comes out here. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to talk about the AC now. So on top of the AC compressor right here, there are these wires. This is a ground wire underneath here, and then this is the power for the clutch. You can see it comes up over here. I've tapped into this right here, you can see, and then this red line runs down, around, and over to there. So whenever I turn the AC on in the car, it's going to engage the compressor clutch. It's also going to send 12 volts along that power. And this is a very important setup right here, having two relays. Let's see if I can focus on this for you. So basically, if you only have, if you splice in this signal and then the signal coming from the AC, what's going to happen is whenever your fans turn on, it's going to go back up through the wire and turn on your AC compressor clutch. So you want to have two relays here so that you can't possibly get those signals mixed up. So basically you have a signal coming in. It's hard to see. This pin right here is a signal coming in from the AC, and then it comes out and grounds. And then from the back here, I have a power from the battery, and then it goes over to this. And then you can see I have the signal coming out of this as well, out of the thermostat, and it's coming into the same pin right here. So this is a signal pin. So you can see the signals on either side, and then the power go front to back. So you can see I have a signal coming across here, and it comes up, and then it grounds out of this. So when the thermostat turns on, it turns on this relay. When the AC turns on, it turns on this relay. If both of them are on, it still keeps this relay on. It doesn't matter. But you don't want this one to turn on and also affect this one, or you don't want this one to turn on and also affect this one. That's why you have to have two separate pieces for this. But either way, they both come into here. If this relay gets a signal from either one, then it's going to open up, it grounds out, and then you have your power that comes through. This is a switched power as well from the battery, and it comes up and it comes into the fans. The fans are wired in parallel. That means you take both positives for the fans, put them together, put them into one where the power comes out, and then you take both grounds for both of them, put them together, and ground them. You can see I grounded everything up here. You don't want to run them in series. You don't want to do positive to negative and then positive to negative and then up into the ground, because that will cause too much strain on the system, and it's not good for the fans. It's not the correct way to wire them up. It'll draw too much current through one of them and burn it out. So you want to draw it through parallel, if that makes sense, guys. So that's pretty much it for the E-fans. It's a little complicated to get this wiring down. You just need to really understand how relays work in order to get it to work. But now that we have this set up, if I turn the AC on, the fans will turn on. If it gets too hot, then the fans will turn on. And that's really what we want, and it won't affect any other systems in this car. So if you guys have any questions about how I did my AC setup, if you have any questions about the E-fan setup, go ahead and drop a comment down below. This should be a sufficient setup for just everyday driving. This is a 2-row aluminum radiator off eBay. It comes with 2 fans to replace the clutch fan. Really, the biggest reason why I like this is it gives you so much more working room up in here. It gives you a lot of room to really work with stuff. Instead of having all the fan shrouds and everything, you can't get to anything. I wanted to mention I did the NA2T swap. I put a turbo on my NA engine, and I wanted to keep the AC, but the problem was I had these 2 intercooler pipes running through here. So what I went ahead and did is I took a piece of steel and I welded it to the back of this AC tensioner bracket, and I put a new pulley on. This is from a 370Z. It doesn't have to be a Z, I just wanted to keep it in the family. But I put this on here, and then I got a bigger belt. It goes around this now, up, around, and then back down there. Basically in order to avoid this belt hitting this pipe right here. This is not the best way of doing it. I have noticed that this belt already has a crack in it because it's not really supposed to bend backwards. You can see the rest of the belts are all only going in a circle. They don't ever bend up like this, so this belt probably will have a quite of a reduced lifespan. But it's something that I'm just going to deal with. I don't need AC all year round, so it's just going to be how it is. That's the only thing on this belt. If it was like the alternator plus the AC, then it might be a problem, but it's not. It's just the AC. So if the AC belt snaps on accident, all I'm going to be out is the AC. That's how it is. But that's how I did the workaround for my NA2T. It's not perfect, like I said, but it sure is working good for the time being. Again, guys, if you have any questions about my entire setup, if you have any questions about your setup, I'll go ahead and try to walk through them with you. Just drop a comment down below, and I will see you guys later.